Hey guys, what's going on? Excoundrel AFK Journey here. Today we are going to be talking about the best PvE comps in the game. But first, before we do that, if you have enjoyed the content, please feel free to subscribe. Let me know how you feel. I'd love to hear your thoughts about AFK Journey right now. That's what I want to open up with. Like, how do you feel the game is? We're like 2 months into launch, there or thereabouts. Like, how are you feeling about the game? Because, you know, I'm going to give you an example. I completed the campaign probably about 2 weeks ago. I have been sat in this exact location for 2 weeks. I have not moved my character in 2 weeks. All I've been doing is clicking on the menu, and we've got this beautiful, beautiful world to explore. I apparently didn't get that waypoint. I should probably go and get that. We've got this beautiful, beautiful world to explore, and I just haven't explored. I just don't do anything. I'll go over to do the Primal Lord when that awakens, but that's been on like a 30-day timer for what feels like forever. And it just feels like we've got so much that we could be doing on the map, but we're just not getting around to doing it, which is a little bit sad, really, but there we go. Right, let's talk about PvE comps. I'm going to do this in the AFK stages. So this is kind of still the go-to meta comp. This is very, very, very standard. Carolina, Thorin, and then a triple threat of Eironn. Damien could also be Hewin, and then we have Arden. Now, this is kind of like the standard meta comp that is still incredibly good at pushing PvE meta content. Also really benefited by the Crescent spell. Crescent spell is an extremely strong spell for this particular comp because you deal so much magic damage, and the extra magic penetration just means that you deal way more anyway. So this is just an extremely strong spell that goes along with it. If you're struggling with the levels, you can also default over to Light Heal or Stormcaller because you get a lot of physical and magic defense out of them. Like, similar amounts to what you'd get from Awakening spell, actually, when you look at it. Awakening gives you 26, and you get 30 from Light Heal spell, but yeah, you really want to be using Crescent spell. One of the things to say is that you can still use things like Star Shard spell, for instance, and you'll notice that my power goes down by about 20k or so when I do that. But they're still very viable. Star Shard's still extremely good. I'll show you that it's still very possible to straight up win with Star Shard, especially when you're running with this comp where you sort of cast so quickly anyway. It's not the comp that it's not like kind of the go-to for me, but Star Shard is still an incredibly good spell that you can use, and it will definitely help you get through levels. So you shouldn't count out the old artifacts, even though the season kind of pushes you towards using the new artifacts. You shouldn't count out the old artifacts, but Crescent spell is also incredibly good with this comp. I really like it because essentially, you know, Eironn's able to stack a load of magic damage pretty much straight at the start, and then you just reduce everyone's HP and they just basically die pretty much instantaneously. So this is kind of still the standard comp for PvE progression. Now, in terms of what you need to prioritize in this composition, so that's something that is probably worth touching on here. You need to get Eironn to at least, if I have a look, this is Carolina. You need to get Eironn to at least Mythic Plus. The reason we want Eironn at least Mythic Plus is because he gets his instant cast of his ultimate, and then hopefully, if you can get him to level 10 X weapon, you double the time that he is immobilizing enemies for, which is incredibly strong too. Works really well with Arden at the very start of the fight, just in terms of granting Arden as much extra energy as possible. So it's just you know, it's a really good initial cast that makes this whole comp work. If you don't have that, this comp doesn't really work, and Eironn actually isn't that good. If you can get him to Supreme Plus, you will be benefited by an extra 15% magic penetration, so just really strong. And in general, you'll find that you'll increase your damage output massively by having Enhanced Force unlocked. But it's not necessary. The only thing that's necessary is Mythic Plus. And obviously X Weapon 10 if you can get it. Obviously, Carolina is really important. It's really important to have Carolina at Mythic Plus if you can, but Supreme Plus is also really strong. But Mythic Plus essentially permanently increases the damage of her snowballs up to 7 times when she's casting Snowball Witchery, which is her main form of kind of like single target damage into a little bit of AoE damage. And then she also reduces magic defense by up to 25% at X Weapon 10. So again, X Weapon 10 is the goal for Carolina. You can push her to 15 if you want, because a 5% magic defense reduction is nothing to be sniffed at, but it's not necessary. Really, is level 10 is like the core goal here. You don't need Supreme Plus, but it does make Carolina obviously a bit better. It's not absolutely necessary though. Arden, our boy, he is useless until Mythic Plus, so you really need Mythic Plus. The reason that we like Mythic Plus is he can basically reactivate his own Nature's Resilience, which grants him energy whenever a non-enemy summoned enemy is controlled. And then also he also triggers his own ultimate, where the lightning strikes affect crowd-controlled enemies. So that's basically, you need this. And then if you can get him to X weapon plus 10, you increase the duration of entangling roots from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, which basically then also increases the damage that it does, which is really nice. And then Force of Nature, when you get into Supreme Plus, his DPS will get massively increased, because Force of Nature's minimum Thunderstrike cooldown on the same enemy is reduced by 1 second. It is currently at once every 2 seconds, so it becomes once every 1 second. It basically doubles his DPS. So Supreme Plus Arden is the goal, and X Weapon level 10 also. Now let's look at the other two components. We have Thorin. Thorin at Mythic Plus would be super nice. Just basically means he survives a little bit longer. The Supreme Plus for Thorin is not necessary. And in terms of Mythic Plus weaponry, you are just looking for like at least X Weapon 5. You don't need X Weapon 10. X Weapon 10 and X Weapon 15 are a bit useless on Thorin, or not useless, but they're not really worth it. So you just go to X Weapon plus 8 for the stats, and then you leave it there. And then the last one, it could be Huin or Damien. Now, Damien is really nice because he gets instant healing at the start of the fight, which can be really useful. He also removes himself from the fight, which basically means that he is safe and will continue to heal all the way through. It will continue to heal all the way through. The X Weapon level 5 is the most important here because it actually grants the healing. If you don't have X Weapon level 5, you'll just get haste. And then obviously X Weapon level 10 and level 15 is surplus to requirements because you just get extra haste, which is nice, but it's not a deal breaker. And then really Supreme Plus is kind of meh. You don't really need Supreme Plus for Damien. Really Mythic Plus is the core. In terms of Huin, again, similar. I actually think... I think getting her to X Weapon level 5 is also really nice because she gets her initial 300 energy. Also, she reduces damage from all allies taken by 30% when using her ultimate. And then also, she will grant 30 haste for 6 seconds when revitalized in effect. When the current HP ratio of an ally is below 50%, Huin grants them healing bonus of 120%. This effect applies to each enemy every 8 seconds. So basically grants them a massive haste bonus if they drop below 50% HP, which is quite nice. But really, I prefer Damien because he removes himself from the fight and he's very safe. That's kind of what you want to focus on with this comp. Right, let's look at another comp now. And actually, I can level up a hero. Let's do it. Boom. In terms of charms, by the way, I'm not at the stage where I can tell you which type of charms matter because I'm still just getting the standard charms. So realistically, just equip any charms that you have. So, whenever you used to go on the AFK stages, you used to look at this and you'd always see the same comps. You would essentially see people running the Odie comp. That has kind of been superseded by another budget version of the Eironn comp. So let's say you're using this and you've only got Eironn at and maybe Arden at Mythic Plus. So this is showing you that Eironn and Arden are sort of focuses here. Scarlita is at literally at level 1 for most of these comps, right? And I've seen this also used with Florabelle. So essentially there is a core of this comp. It is Eironn, usually Scarlita and Arden, and then you see a bit of flex in between. But I've never tried this comp, so we're going to try it now. We'll see how it goes. Let's drop everything and quickly switch out my Hands of Resonance to have Arden at 310, just to make it a little easier. And then they're using Granny Dani for this. I've seen it used with Florabelle as well, but I'm assuming for this particular stage, Granny Dani is the one. And then we also have literally a level 1 Scarlita, and I think most people tend to use Star Shard spell here. So I'm just going to see how this ends up working out. My sort of inclination is that we're using the stalling until Scarlita comes down, and then yeah, very easy. I think I might be a little bit too over leveled for a lot of this to show you kind of how it really is supposed to push. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at some replays here. So this one is using Rainier and Florabelle. So this is another version of the comp that I've seen. And again, Eironn Rainier, Floribel. Floribel is almost a 1 copy. Scarlita's basically a 1 copy. This guy's got Rainier at Mythic Plus, but I have seen people running Rainier like here. He's only got Rainier at Legendary Plus, so it doesn't really feel like you need to have like a super high level team here. So we'll have a look at the replay. So yeah, they're using Star Shard spell. They've sent Eironn in to essentially tank for as long as possible. Here comes the stalling from the Arden. Here comes the stalling from the Floribel. They're essentially just waiting for a Scarlita to come down in. She knocks them all back. Yeah, okay. So this is kind of the new budget progression comp, if you will. This is the comp that people are using to push progression. It's not as budget as the Odie comp. That's what I will say. It does require a significant investment. And if you look at what they had invested, they had Eironn at least at either X Weapon 5 or X Weapon 10, and Arden was always at least at X Weapon 5. So you need Arden probably at Supreme Plus, and you need Eironn probably at Supreme Plus. But the rest of it you can have 1 copies of. 1 copy of Floribel, 1 copy of Rainier, 1 copy of Scarlita. You probably need a relatively high Rowan, but he should have been a target for most people. So that's kind of like another like budget progression comp. The other comp that I'm also sometimes using is kind of just the old school Odie comp. So Odie. I'm not using Soren because I just don't think he's good, so I'm sticking with Antandra for the time being. And I'm kind of just using this. So this is like pretty standard, honestly. I'm going to go with Star Shard here because the haste is quite nice. I actually do think I want to... You have to sometimes manually cast Odie, and I like to get rid of a Viperium pretty quickly. So, yeah, I'm going to get rid of the Viperium. And now I'm probably just going to let Odie start casting by himself. And this is another pretty good budget comp. It's not that budget for me anymore, frankly, because I have a Mythic Plus Brutus. Or, like, yeah, I've got a Supreme Brutus. I've got Mythic Plus... Supreme Plus pretty much everything else. So it's not that budget for me anymore, but it is kind of like my go-to second comp for the double stage AFK stuff. But I've also seen people on the multi-teams, you can see here. I've seen people using, yeah, the budget Floribel comp, and then here you're seeing people use the Odie comp second for the most part, right? Same comp that I just ran pretty much exclusively. So people are essentially running the dual progression using this budget Floribel Arden comp, then just going into the Odie comp. So the Odie comp is still extremely useful. It's very good on the second stage progression for your AFK stages. But frankly, as we can see, it's no longer kind of the go-to budget comp. There is a much more powerful kind of budget Arden comp. However, what I will say is that if you have only got like Odie at a respectable level, then try not to worry too much, because this comp is obviously still usable. You can still use this as your budget comp if it's the only thing that you've got investing on. In terms of what you need to make this comp work, you need Odie at least at X Weapon level 10, in my opinion. I think X Weapon level 10 is a massive boost for Odie, and I feel like that's the core addition you need. Smokey and Mirky would be amazing at Mythic Plus, hopefully 5. Brutus can be a 1 copy most of the time. Coco can be sort of, I would say, Legendary Plus. She's obviously much better at Mythic Plus, and even better at Supreme Plus. And then Antandra, to me, I'm using only a Mythic. I don't even have Mythic Plus Antandra. I actually find that Mythic Plus Antandra becomes more annoying than useful. But I use Antandra at Mythic at the moment. But your core focuses should be for the Odie comp. Your core focuses should be Odie at X Weapon level 10. I'm actually pushing Odie as high as I can with his X Weapon at the moment. I want to go him to 15. But X Weapon level 10 for the 600 energy. And then you really want Smokey and Mirky at 5 if you can. Because essentially that's where you get the damage from Smokey and Mirky, which is it boosts to 14% of their max HP. I think if you can get Smokey and Mirky to level 10, it gives you that nice new unique bonus. But I'd say like it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. It's quite nice for obviously interrupting casting and interrupting energy generation, but it's not that big of a deal in my honest opinion. Everything else though, like I said, 1 copy of Brutus is fine. I would really say that at least Legendary Plus, so you get the hero focus where you get the haste increase, so she casts more quickly. But really, like, both Mythic Plus and Supreme Plus are great upgrades for Coco. And then Antandra, really, she can be whatever. I think, like, Mythic would be good, but again, doesn't need to be super high level. And those are, like, the top 3 PvE comps at the moment, guys. Hopefully that helps you understand how to use them. In terms of positioning for each of them, it's definitely just a kind of a bit of a guessing game. The positioning that I used for the Odie comp works really well. You want to have Antandra behind Brutus. The positioning that you saw me use for the Eironn traditional comp works really well. And then on the replays, you saw how they used like a full backline positioning for the Florabelle comp. So just go back and have a look at how those were done in the video, and hopefully it will help you. And yeah, I'll see you very soon, guys. Cheers.